Hello class, this is Mr. Parsons here. Just want to take a few minutes to talk about multi-step inequalities. In the previous lesson we talked about one-step inequalities. Now we want to talk about multi-step inequalities. We'll approach it the same way we would multi-step equations. The only difference is instead of us having the equal sign, we have the inequality symbol. And so think about the steps for solving our multi-step equations. You do the same steps for the inequalities. First step, always do the distributive property if possible. And then you want to combine any like terms. After you do that, you want to bring the variable over to one side of the variables on both sides. And then at that point, you should have a two-step inequality. You want to go ahead and move your constant by adding or subtracting. And then you want to move your coefficient by multiplying or dividing. When you get to that last step of multiplying or dividing, though, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, your inequality symbol flips. So that's something that we need to remember, and we'll look at that as we go through a couple of these examples. So let's look at this first example. 4x plus 26 minus 2x plus 11 is greater than 49. First of all, there's no distributive property, so we don't need to do that. But we do have like terms. We got 4x, negative 2x, we have 26, and we have 11. All right, so we want to go ahead and combine our like terms. 4x minus 2x is 2x, 26 and 11 is 37. So we got 2x plus 37 is greater than 49. Now we got a two-step inequality. We want to move our constant 37 to the other side by doing the inverse, and we want to subtract. So we're going to subtract 37 on both sides. When we do that, 49 minus 37 gives you 12. Now we want to move our coefficient 2 to the other side by doing the inverse operation, and we want to divide. So we divide both sides by 2. And so 12 divided by 2 is 6. So x is greater than 6. So our inequality here will be x is greater than 6. All right. And so all you have to do to double check any number greater than 6, you can substitute for x and put it in for your inequality and see if the statement is true. So in this example, they put 7 for x. And once they solve it, they get 51. 51 is greater than 49. That inequality is true. All right. So to go ahead and graph this, if it's greater than or less than, it's going to be an open circle. If it's a greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, it's going to be a closed circle. If it's a greater than, it's going to the right. If it's less than, it's going to the left. So I have a greater than symbol. So I'm going to have an open circle on 49 going to the right. I mean, not 49, an open circle on 6 going to the right. I apologize. Let's look at number 2. We have distributive properties, so we want to go ahead and do that first. So we're going to do negative 2 times 3x and negative 2 times 15. Negative 2 times 3x is 6x. Negative 2 times 15 is negative 30. So we got negative 6x minus 30 is less than or equal to 42. Now we have a two-step equation. All right, we need to move 30 to the other side by doing the inverse. So we want to add 30 on both sides. 42 and 30 is 72. And now we want to go ahead and move our coefficient by dividing negative 6 on both sides. Now, since I'm divided by a negative number, my inequality symbol is going to flip. So I'm going to divide by negative 6. 72 divided by negative 6 is negative 12. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to negative 12 because of the inequality symbol flipping. And then you can just substitute this back into your inequality to see if it's true. Any number that's greater than or equal to a negative 12, if I put 5, that's greater than negative 12. And I substitute that in my inequality, I get negative 60. Negative 60 is less than or equal to 42. That is a true statement. All right. And so to graph it, we got a closed circle on negative 12 going to the right. All right. Let's look at this one. So the first thing we want to do our distributive property. 6 times x is 6 times 8. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. This is our inequality after we do the distributive property. Now we want to combine our like terms. Our like terms is negative 2 and 6. That's going to give you 4x. Negative 48 and 10 gives you negative 38. So 4x minus 38 is less than 2. Now we got a two-step equation. Add 38 on both sides. You're going to get 4x is less than 40. And then divide both sides by 4. X is less than 10. So x is less than 10 is our inequality. Always double check, substitute a number that's less than 10 into inequality to see if it's true. In this instance, We substituted 9, and we get negative 2. Negative 2 is less than negative 2, so the inequality statement is true. To graph it, we have an open circle on 10 going to the left. All right. It says Letitia says that x equals 9 could be a solution to all the inequalities above. Do we agree? Well, let's take a look, because let's see. This is x is greater than 6. 9 is greater than 6. All right. X is greater than or equal to negative 12. 9 is greater than or equal to negative 12. That fits. X is less than 10. 9 is less than 10. So yes, 9 will be a solution to all of the inequalities. All right. Let's take a look at number 4. All right. There's no distributive property, but we got like terms. All right. So our like terms is 4.5k and negative 1.3k. And then the other like terms is 18 and negative 24.1. So 4.5 minus 1.3, that's going to give you 3.2k. 18 minus 24.1 is going to give you negative 6.1. And it's greater than or equal to 14.7. Now I want to go ahead and got our two-step. Add 6.1 on both sides. That's going to give you 20.8. And then divide both sides by 3.2. And then k is greater than or equal to 6.5. That's going to be inequality. All right, look at number 5. All right, we're doing distributive property here. So 3/4 times negative x, 3/4 times 12. 3/4 times negative x is negative 3/4 x. 3/4 times 12 is 9. All right, because that gives you that's going to give you 20. That's going to give you 36 over 4, which is 9. All right, this is our two-step equation. Subtract 9 on both sides is going to give you 9. So negative 3/4 x is less than 9. Now we want to divide both sides by negative 3/4. When you divide by a negative number, or multiply by a negative number, your inequality symbol flips. And since I'm dividing by a fraction, think about this as saying keep, change, flip. So divided by negative 3/4 is the same thing as multiplying by 4/3. So if I multiply 9 times negative 4/3, 4 times negative 4 is negative 36. And negative 36 divided by 3 is negative 12. So x is greater than negative 12. And that's going to be inequality. Looking at number 6. We got to share the property, so we got to do this first. We got to do negative 7.2 times negative 4x. That's going to give you 28.8x. Negative 7.2 times 3. That's going to give you negative 21.6. Now that we did that, we want to combine our like terms. 24 minus 21.6. That's going to give you 2.4. So now we got our two-step equation. Subtract 2.4 on both sides. Negative 26.4 minus 2.4 gives you negative 28.8. And then divide both sides by 28.8. You get x is less than or equal to negative 1. And that's going to be your inequality. All right, look at number 7. Rodney is flying on an airplane to Puerto Rico. His suitcase and the contents must be less than 50 pounds. So that's your inequality, less than 50. His suitcase weighs 4 pounds. Okay. And the contents he wants to pack weighs 49 pounds. Okay. If each of his shirts weighs 0.7 pounds, write an inequality to represent the number of shirts he needs to remove. All right, so what we need to do is we got to set this up. We know that it has to be less than 50. We know we got to add the weight of the suitcase and the weight of the contents we want to pack. So 49 plus 4. And then we got to subtract the shirts. Each shirt weighs 0.75 pounds. So minus 0.75 times the number of shirts is less than 50. That's your inequality. All right, what we need to do is now let's go ahead and let's solve this. We got to combine our like terms. 49 and 4 gives you 53. All right, now we need to go ahead and try to solve for our x. So we got to subtract 53 on both sides. All right, 50 minus 53 is negative 3. So negative 0.75x is less than negative 3. And then we got to divide both sides by negative 0.75. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, remember the inequality symbol, it flips. So negative 3 divided by negative 0.75 gives you 4. So it's going to be x is greater than 4. What does that tell us? It tells us that we need to pack more than 4 shirts. All right, more than 4 shirts. So it's telling us that Rodney needs to remove more than 4 shirts in order to meet the requirements. So x is greater than 4. All right, let's look at number 8. Celine and Bennett are solving the inequality. Celine says you need to flip the inequality sign, while Bennett claims you will not need to flip it. Who is correct? Well, let's solve it. We can solve it and see. That's the best way to figure it out. So the first thing we need to do with this one, distribute the property. Negative 5 times 2x and negative 5 times 1. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. So this is our inequality after we do the distributive property. Now the next thing we have to do, combine our like terms. Negative 10 and 12 gives you 2x. And then 17 minus 5, that gives you 12. So 2x plus 12 is less than or equal to negative 22. All right. We got to subtract 12 on both sides. 2x is less than or equal to negative 4. We divide both sides by 2. Since we're dividing and it is not a negative number, 2 is positive, you're going to keep your inequality the same. So when I divide both sides by 2, I got negative 17. So x is less than or equal to negative 17. Even though this number on this side is negative, that's fine. As long as your coefficient, the number that you're multiplying or dividing, is not negative, then you don't need to flip the inequality sign. So we will have to rock with Bennett and say that Bennett is correct in this instance. All right, because since you don't have a negative coefficient, you don't need to flip the inequality sign. All right. These right here, this is just if we was to solve this real quick, we get our solutions. So what I want you guys to do is pause the video, all right, and try to work all of these problems out, and then come back and check and see if your answer is correct. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's look at number 1. So for number 1, this is the same thing as saying negative 1 times x, negative 1 times 9. That gives you negative x plus 15 is greater than 17. Subtract 15 on both sides. You're going to get negative x is greater than 2, but that's a negative x. Think of it as saying negative 1x. All right, I need to make it positive. And so in order to make it positive, divide both sides by negative 1. What happens is, since you divide by a negative number, flip the inequality symbol. And so x is less than negative 2. All right, you look at number 2, you got to do the distributive property first. So you got to do 2 times m and 2 times negative 3. All right, 2 times m is 2m, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So this is our equation, our inequality after we do distributive property. Our like terms is 1/2 and 2m. So that's going to give you 2.5 or 2.5. All right, add 6 on both sides, that's going to give you 19. And then I divide both sides by 2.5. That gives me m is less than or equal to 7.6. All right, for number 3, we want to do our distributive property. All right, 5 times negative 4x is negative 20x. 5 times 1 is 5, and that's less than 45. All right, subtract 5 on both sides. 45 minus 5 gives you 40. And then I divide both sides by negative 20. Since I divided by a negative number, inequality symbol flips. So 40 divided by negative 20 is negative 2. So it's going to be x is greater than negative 2. All right. And then for number 4, we're going to combine our like terms. S minus 7s is negative 6s. 4 minus 9 is negative 5. So negative 6s minus 5 is greater than or equal to 31. Add 5 on both sides. 31 and 5 is 36. And then divide both sides by negative 6. 36 divided by negative 6 is negative 6, but since I divide by a negative number, inequality symbol, it flips. So s equals less than negative 6. And in this one, do we distribute the property? Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2 times 4 is 8. All right. Then combine our like terms. 11 and 8 is 19. Subtract 19 on both sides, you get negative 3. And then if I divide both sides by negative 2, that's going to give you positive 1.5, but since I divide by a negative number, it flips. And so 1.5 is less than x, or if we read it right to the left, x is greater than 1.5. And then lastly, do I distribute the property? 1/3 times x is 1/3 x. 1/3 times negative 27 is negative 9. Plus 1/3, combine your like terms. 1/3 and 1/3 is 2/3. All right, add 9 on both sides, that gives you 40. And if I do 40 divided by 2/3, which is the same thing as multiplying by 3/2, that's going to give you 60. So x is greater than 60. All right. So we're just applying our concepts of solving multi-step equations to the same way we would do a multi-step inequalities.